It was about 2 weeks after the gala, and life seemed normal in Ponyville. Rainbow Dash's date had gone well. She even had another one planned. Applejack was still selling. Twilight was as studious as ever. Even Rarity had changed for the better. She could be found prancing around town, purchasing packages here or there. They were probably things for her new fashion line or something. She must be feeling better. She was always humming a song as she went about her errands. She must have made it up herself. All of her friends seemed to be getting along fine as well. At first, they were worried about Rarity and the whole Bloomblood fiasco, but from what they could see, she seemed to have gotten over it. All except for Pinkie Pie. She knew something was out of place. Rarity entered her shop with another large package wrapped in her tail. This was it. Tonight was the night she could get started. Sweetie Belle was out to school and wouldn't be back for a few hours. Rarity trotted up to her room and closed the door. She placed the package on her bed and slipped her red glasses on and made her way to her desk. On the desk was a set of the most peculiar designs and instructions you'd have ever laid your eyes on. Instead of the intricate designs for dresses and outfits, there were diagrams of ponies. Each and every part of a male pony was laid out on paper in red ink. There were instructions on what went where, which nerve connected to which, what organ went where, how much blood there was in the average stallion. Diagrams for the skeletal system were posted here and there, along with pictures of the muscle. Rarity gave an excited giggle as she looked over her plans for the perfect lover. She wanted a strong physique, much like that hunk Big Macintosh. She also wanted a healthy, colorful mane. Oh, and the eyes! She couldn't forget the eyes! After almost 2 weeks of eager planning and research, she could finally get started. Rarity slipped off her glasses and picked up her new package. She left her room and moved up to the boutique's attic. Instead of a normal storage area, it had been converted into something like an operating room. In the middle was a table, much like the one the doctors used. Around it were shelves containing tools. Some were sharp and precise, like a scalpel or a pair of fine tweezers. Others were large and crude, like hacking saws or cleavers. Her newest package contained a small device to pump blood in and out of a body. She set this down and looked around. Yes, she thought to herself, I have everything I need. As Sweetie Belle returned home from the night, Rarity prepared for her night's adventures. As she tucked Sweetie Belle in and made sure that her attic door was locked, she went to her room. She came out with a large bundle on her back. She was covered in black velvet to hide her vibrant white coat. The last thing she wanted was somebody seeing what she was about to do. Rarity exited her boutique with a skip in her step and started to sing. Prince Charming, my perfect Prince Charming. I'll make you from scratch. I'll stitch you together. We'll be the perfect match. Together forever, so perfect and loving. I'll make you divine, and ever so happy to call you mine. As she wandered, happily lost in her thoughts, she reached her destination, Ponyville Mortuary. This was where deceased ponies would be sent to be prepared for burial. This was where they'd be the freshest. No pony would be here at this time of night, so she would have the whole place to herself. Using her magic, she clicked open the locks on the door. Rarity slid through them and quickly closed them behind her. Now, to get her supplies. After a few minutes of wandering the dark and eerie facility, Rarity found herself facing a large metal door. This was it. This was where Prince Charming was waiting for her. She pulled the handle on the door and shoved it open. As Rarity entered the large room, she gave a soft gasp of amazement. This room was filled with rows upon rows of corpses and cadavers, stallion and mare alike, each on its own table. Rarity walked along the aisles, her eyes wide, her face set with a mad grin, her heart thumping. Each wore a look of calm on their face, not moving a millimeter. They just lay there quiet and still, as if waiting for Rarity to take her pick. It was just like shopping for new fabrics, different sizes and different patterns and different designs. There were old mares who died from young age, young stallions dead from accidents or sickness, even foals and fillies. The room was cold, no doubt to preserve the bodies. But Rarity couldn't help but notice there couldn't possibly be this many dead ponies in Ponyville alone. She looked at the tags on some of the bodies. Canterlot, she read aloud quietly. She picked up another. Manhattan. So they weren't only from Ponyville. Rarity didn't mind, however. She wanted some variety. She dropped her bundle and pulled out several body bags and a hacking saw. Then she took out a slip of parchment. It looked like a shopping list. She smiled at it and looked down. First, she would need a torso, then 4 arms, then hind legs, then a full set of organs, then a mane, then, last, but most definitely not least, she would need a head and a perfect face. Rarity pursued the aisles of bodies. She made sure that they were in prime condition. Perhaps this one? No, the chest was too small. Maybe this? No, that wouldn't do. This one was too mangled. How about this one? Nah, too old. But this one was perfect. Nice chiseled abnormal, a muscular chest. It would fit perfectly. And no, the body was too damaged, struck in the head by blunt trauma, and homogenized. But she didn't need the head. Rarity picked up the body bag and magicked the corpse into it. He was heavy, but it wasn't anything Rarity's magic couldn't handle. She looked at the list and crossed out torso and organs. She gave out a quiet giggle. Next was the limbs and head. Rarity continued to stroll through the chilled room. Perhaps this stallion? No, that one over there had a much more fit body. After all, he was an earth pony. She looked down upon it. Yet another corpse. It had a lean, muscular forearms. No doubt, this was a train puller from the train station. Yes, these would do just fine. With a wide smile, Rarity picked up her hacksaw with her magic. She lifted it above her head and swung it down upon the corpse, just above its shoulders. It landed with a sickly thunk as it cleaved through the dead flesh and hit the bone. Although the body was dead, it still contained copious amounts of blood. As Rarity hit the body with the saw, a small amount of blood sprayed on her. She looked down at herself, and Rarity gave an annoying groan. She would have to scrub extra hard to get the blood out of her outfit. Pushing this thought aside, she started to saw the bone, back and forth. The saw ground its way through the thick bone until it cut all the way through. Rarity picked up the now dripping severed limb and placed it in another body bag. She then walked to the other side of the stallion's corpse. With another wet thunk, Rarity started on the other forearm. Soon after, the body lay bloody, dripping, and armless. Splattered in blood that was starting to dry, Rarity checked off arms off her list. What would she go for next? The head? The hind legs? What? Hey! Rarity's eyes grew wide. She whipped around to the door of the refrigerated room and saw a young stallion. His coat was white. His cutie mark was a shiny yellow star, no doubt to symbolize his job as a security guard. "What are you doing here?" he yelled. "And what in Celestia's name are you doing to those bodies?" "Please, sir, just leave me alone," Rarity said quietly. "What? No!" the guard yelled. He was confused and horrified at the scene in front of him. A mare in a black veil was covered in blood and surrounded by corpses. He slowly approached her. He hadn't seen the saw. "Ma'am," he said, I'm afraid I'll have to take you to the authorities." "Please leave me alone," Rarity continued, turning her back to the guard. "I'm very busy." Guard was right behind her. His stomach crunched as he came closer. The stallion's body was missing its arms, and the table it was on was dripping with pools of blood. What was this mare doing? "Please go away," Rarity said again. "Ma'am," the guard continued, "I must." But he never finished. "I said please." Slashed of serrated metal and a splatter of crimson. The guard stumbled back a few steps. He tried to speak, but all he could do was gargle messily as warm blood spewed from his mouth. He lifted a hoof to his throat and felt a large horizontal tear. Rarity swung the saw across, backwards at the guard, his throat torn wide open. He lifted both hooves to his gaping throat, hopelessly trying to stop the uncontrollable bleeding. He looked up, bleeding to death, to see Rarity hovering over him. Her eyes ran the length of his face and stopped at his eyes. My, she said with a grin, and her pupils contracted madly. "You have very pretty eyes. Perhaps I can use you." Already so weak from the blood loss, the nameless guard could do nothing but watch as Rarity laid him on his back in a pool of his own blood. He couldn't move or resist, but he could still feel pain. Rarity slid the saw and cut the guard's throat, and slowly began sawing back and forth. In a last scream of pure agony and pain, the saw cut through the vocal cords, silencing the twitching body. After a few minutes, however, the guard's body lay limp and lifeless. "Perfect," Rarity said, lifting up the head with her magic and examining it. It was still warm and dripping with blood. But the face isn't quite what I had in mind. Perhaps I'll have to make a new face." And she did just that. Rarity went around the chilled room, sawing off and collected a total of 5 pony heads from corpses. She then proceeded to obtain her legs and mane. She threw the heads into a body bag, and the legs and mane into another. She picked up the 4 bags filled with her parts easily with her magic and stepped out of the room. She looked back and saw the room stained in red and mutilated pony bodies everywhere. This did not bother her, though. No pony would know it was her. No one except for the perfect, well-mannered Rarity, that is. She smiled and gave a soft giggle as she closed the door and exited the mortuary, and no pony else would know of what went on that night. It was the afternoon after Rarity's shopping trip when the gang, the main 6, burst into the boutique. "Rarity!" Twilight yelled. "Have you seen the morning paper?" "Why?" Rarity said, trying to act surprised. "What happened?" "Some pony broke into the bone house," Applejack stated, "and chopped up the place." "Oh my!" Rarity gasped.
"The corpses in the mortuary,"
Rainbow Dash stated over Twilight's shoulder, "were found this morning, mutilated and disturbed. A few heads were missing. One was missing arms, another missing its legs. The intruder had also murdered and beheaded the night guard of the mortuary." You don't think there's a murderer loose in Ponyville, do you, Twi?" asked Rainbow Dash, eyes wide with concern. "Because nothing like this has ever happened before." Fluttershy hid in the corner, sobbing. "There seems to be a mad pony in town," Twilight said, Hoof raised in thought. But that's what's strange is, whoever did this was doing some kind of harvest. What do you think, Pinkie Pie? Pinkie Pie? Every pony turned to look at Pinkie, who was standing behind them all, uncharacteristically quiet. She was staring straight ahead with a disbelieving look.
I think whoever did this
She started to say, slowly.
was and is still very upset.
She kept staring right at Rarity. Rarity's heart almost skipped a beat. Did Pinkie Pie know? But how could she know? Was it her pinky sense? No, that couldn't be it. She was just using logic. Of course the murderer would have to be upset. But that didn't point to Rarity in any way. Well, Twilight started to say, I should report this to the princess. I suggest that we keep an eye out and protect ourselves and our friends as best we can. In the meantime, we should return to our normal routines. I'll discuss this with Big Macintosh, too, Applejack said.
And I'll keep trying to look out for anything strange,
Rainbow Dash said with a salute.
Me too,
Pinkie said quietly. They all waved and said goodbye, then left Rarity by herself. Perhaps she should be a bit more subtle than next time. But now wasn't the time to worry about that. Rarity made her way upstairs. Sweetie Belle, once again, was out with her friends. She was absent and left the boutique empty for Rarity. She reached the landing and called down the hidden steps to the attic. She entered it. A strong, sharp scent greeted her. Well, obviously she needed to continue to preserve the body parts, and her magic and some extra chemicals did just that. Rarity put on a raincoat. The makeshift operating room was now fully set. A total of 6 severed heads, eyes closed and mouths slightly agape, were propped up on one shelf on the wall. The limbs were laid out on a separate similar table under them, but the main center table was the base, the canvas where Rarity would create her best work of art. Her soon-to-be Prince Charming was in the room. She just had to put him together. As eager as Rarity was, she had already begun her work. The full body of the stallion had taken for the torso was already prepared. The limbs and heads were cut off. The even more important nerves and blood vessels were left decently intact, branching out of the main body of the torso like small roots from a tree. The discarded parts were left in a large bin in the corner of the attic. On the other wall of the attic, Rarity's designs were posted. Her self-made instructions and diagrams were there, showing her the final product. She had designs for the perfect face, mane, and body frame. She knew exactly where each important nerve ending and vein and artery had to go. At this rate, Rarity said to herself, without any interruptions, I should be done in a few days. Tilted over the table with the limbs and carried the legs and arms to the center of the room. She lifted one of the forearms to the torso. Rarity then picked up the needle and thread and started her long, tedious work. Stitch by stitch, she sewed the arm as it would a sleeve to a dress, carefully attaching the right nerve and vessels. After about 3 hours of body sewing, she stepped back to admire her work. 1 limb down, 3 more to go. Rarity gave a firm tug. Yes, it was attached perfectly. She laid her head down onto the torso. Soon, my prince.